to consider myself a foodie, and one of my favorite places to eat is out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's called Agape Cafe and Grill, and it is some incredible Amish cooking, which I guess is a little bit redundant because there's no such thing as bad Amish cooking. If you know, you know. Like, I'm pretty sure that if you ever cook a bad meal and you're Amish, you automatically get kicked out of the religion entirely. I have never had bad food from the Amish group. This cafe is incredible. If you're ever out there, be sure to try it and let me know what you think. But we were out that way recently, and I happened to notice that on the wall, they had a definition of what agape means, because it looks like the English word agape, A-G-A-P-E, but it's pronounced agape, and they define it as an ancient Greek word often used when describing Christ's love for mankind. It is the highest form of unselfish love for another. If you've been in an evangelical or fundamentalist church for any length of time, you've probably heard something along these lines. It's been pretty popular for several decades now to talk about agape love as the highest form of love possible. It's often preachers who don't really know Greek or Hebrew that well, but they want to sound smart, so they just repeat something they heard in another sermon or a commentary, and usually they are contrasting different Greek words for love, because there are multiple words in Greek for love, and a lot of this comes from C.S. Lewis's book, The Four Loves, in which he breaks down 4 different Greek words for love. The first being storge, which he describes as affection or care; Philia, where we get the word Philadelphia from, as friendship love or, city of brotherly love, that sort of idea. Eros love, which is often romantic or lustful. And then agape love, which is often described as charitable love or Christian love or God's love, perfect love, something along those lines. And the main passage this gets preached out of is John 21. This is after the crucifixion, after the resurrection. Peter and several of the disciples have gone fishing, and Jesus shows up. He asks them if they have caught anything. They say no. He says, well, cast your nets over on that side of the ship. They do. They get a whole bunch of fish. Peter goes, hey, I know that guy. Jumps off the boat, swims to shore. It's Jesus. They have a big fish fry together on the shore. And then Jesus says to Peter, Peter, do you love me? Peter goes, well, of course you know I love you, Lord. Yeah. A little bit of time goes by, and Jesus says again, do you love me, Peter? He says, yes, of course you know I love you. And then a third time, he says, do you love me, Peter? And Peter freaks out on him and is like, why are you doing this? And Jesus each time is just saying, feed my sheep, feed my lambs, feed my sheep. It's a fascinating passage, and there's several different ways you can go with the interpretation of it. But the thing I want to focus on here is that there are different words for love used. And I heard this preached several times growing up. And it's that the first 2 times that Jesus asks, Peter, do you love me? He uses this word agape. So they're saying, Peter, do you agape me? Do you really, really love me with this pure, perfect, Christian, godly love? And Peter responds, yes, Lord, I philia you. I love you like a friend, is the way they say it. What a lot of preachers are trying to make a point of is Peter apparently didn't love Jesus fully or in the most pure form. He was just saying, yes, I love you like a friend. And so then the third time, Jesus asks him, Peter, do you philia me? Do you love me like a friend? And Peter responds that he does. And so the point usually becomes something along the lines of, oh, we need to love with this pure, godly Christian love. We need to have this perfect agape love. And you can't just be a friend of Jesus. You can't just say, I have philia love for Jesus. You have to have agape love for Jesus. And that sounds great, but it's not accurate. See, while those words can have a little bit of a different meaning, they can also overlap. They can be synonyms for each other. Every time you see the word agape in the New Testament, it's not talking about some perfect godly love. And every time you see philia, it's not necessarily talking about some lower form of love. Let's just look at the Gospel of John, because John in particular uses those 2 terms synonymously. And since the passage in question is in John, it's worth considering how he uses the words. I'll just give you 2 examples. One is from John chapter 3, verse 19. So this is right after the famous John 3:16, which, by the way, does have agape in it. John 3:19 says, this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. That word love is also from agape. That's not a good thing in that case. Now let's look at John 20, verse 2. Then she runneth and cometh to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, Now, if you've read the Gospel of John, you know that there is this mystery disciple whom Jesus loved throughout it, and most people have taken that to be the author of the Gospel, and many people see that as John, the son of Zebedee. The exact identity is another discussion for another day, but the important thing is that's not the word agape here. It's from the root phileo. So the disciple whom Jesus loved, this is Jesus, this is a perfect godly Christian love, right? This is the ideal, it's coming from Jesus, and it's not the word agape. Now, all of this is not to say that agape isn't important. It just means that there's not as much of a distinction between these words as many preachers would like you to think. Love is very important. In fact, it's central to our Christian belief, but it can be described in different words. And I think part of the problem here comes from a belief that a lot of people seem to have that just because there are these inspired works in the New Testament that were written in Greek, therefore Greek is some sort of inspired language as a whole. Well, we have hundreds of works from around this same time period also written in Koine Greek. That doesn't mean that they are all on the same level of importance or inspiration as these books are, at least from a Christian perspective. So just because Greek has these 4 particular words for love does not mean that that is the end-all be-all way to define love. Love is defined a little bit differently in every culture, in every language, and just because our language isn't the one that the Bible was originally written in doesn't mean that we can only go by the definitions of Greek words. These Greek words overlap sometimes in their meanings, just like words in our language do as well. So please, keep preaching love and keep preaching God's love for us and how we need to love other people. But don't make distinctions that aren't grammatically accurate.